반갑습니다. A lot of people always wondering about lesson planning and what should I do in the classroom. Do you follow a textbook? Do you make your own materials? Where can I get all this kind of stuff? And much of your lesson planning is going to be based on the direction that you get from your co-teacher once you get to your school, because each school English department is going to be run a little bit differently. So you're going to have to wait till you get there to find out what direction they put you in to support their own curriculum. Unless your teachers give you specific direction on what to do for your first class or two, I think a good start would be to do like a PowerPoint presentation on yourself, something that introduces yourself to all the students so they know who you are. This helps to set a good tone with the students and the teachers, and it also gives you a chance to put in any classroom procedures that you may think are necessary if you know anything about that. It's just a good starting point, and it really just sets the tone for the rest of the year. I've been at the same school for about 2 years now, and so I had a little bit of an advantage where I kind of knew some of the students. I knew what worked in that environment. I knew the teachers, and so each semester I would do one, and each time I just built upon the last one. So I'm going to share with you the one that I used recently at the beginning of the current semester that I'm in, just to give you some ideas of what worked for me. Maybe a good way to start off your entire presentation is just to open with like a motivational comment or something like that. Nothing too over the top where it's cheesy, but just something that shows a student that you're interested in their learning. Like I mentioned before, I'm in my second year, finishing up my second year at my school, so I've had a chance to take a lot of pictures, including pictures with teachers, like this one here with the gym teacher. Now this picture really worked well. The students all know who the gym teacher is, and he happens to be a really, really great guy. All the teachers really like him. All the students really like him. So when they saw this, it really helped to break the ice. And I think if you can have some pictures that shed some light on you know, like a lighthearted side of you, nothing crazy, but just a lighthearted side of you, I think that'll work to your benefit. Obviously, it's a great idea to tell students where you're from, you know, the country that you're from. They have their own preconceived notions of many of the Western countries, whether good or bad, but they know what they know about your country. So tell them where you're from, where you grew up, maybe the city that you grew up in, some of the activities that you were involved with as a kid, what you studied in school. And while you're doing that, it may be a good idea maybe to use some Hangul or just some Korean words if you know them. If you can't really pull them off, I would keep it simple no matter what, but if you can't really pull it off, if you mess up, you don't want to run the risk of looking foolish on your first day with the students. But if you know some of the words, it's a nice gesture to use them. It kind of helps to build some commonality there. Regardless of where you sit on this topic, I think it's a great idea to tell people about your ethnic background, because you're going to be in Korea where it is very homogeneous here. Very homogeneous. So tell people, oh, well, my ethnic background is out of Sweden. My parents are from Sweden, or Jamaica, or Colombia, or something like that. In my case, with my mother being Korean, I told students about that. And it was really important that I just told them both about my mother and my father, who is of English descent. It helps to draw the picture of who you are as a person. And the fact that I'm half Korean, I still am half Korean, it really helped to warm the waters, not just with the students, but also with the co-teachers. So I would use that as a chance just to let people know a little bit about yourself and that you're proud of it. Also use this introduction as a way to tell them about your hobbies, or just things that you like to do, whether it's hiking or whatever. If you've even glanced at my channel here on YouTube, or if you've looked at any of my blogs, you'll know that my favorite hobby is the sport of judo. And the good thing about that is here in Korea, Korea being one of the most dominant countries in that Olympic sport, they're all familiar with it, even if they never practiced it or come in contact with it in any way, shape, or form. They all know about it. And in fact, the general person here does know who the big names on the national team are. Your Kim Jae-bum, Wang Ki-chun. If you go around and say that, well, people will know who they are because they're in the newspapers, they're on TV, things like that. So use this as an opportunity to say, hey, I like snow skiing, and show pictures and things like that. It'll really help to open their eyes to who you are, and it just makes you look like more of a person in their classroom. I think it's a good idea. Another thing you can do is to tell them about the foods you like to eat. not just from where your home country, but that's also really important too, because they want to say, hey, what is it? We got this foreign person sitting in front of us. What do you eat? What food is popular? What is it that you like to eat back home? Showing pictures and things. Now, you don't have to go crazy with it, because that can be a good lesson in the future, but tell them a little bit about that. But also tell them about what Korean foods that you like to eat. Hey, these students are looking, what does this foreign guy or gal like to eat here? Why do you like to eat kimchi or galbi? What is so good about it to you? So tell them about that. One of the things that I did, just because I've been at the school for a little while, is I highlighted some of the accomplishments, English accomplishments, of some of the previous students. And actually some of the students really did do well in some of the local and regional competitions. So I highlighted that, and what that did is most of the students will recognize their faces, even if they're not in the same grade or in any of the same classes, and they'll say, wow, well, if they can do it, I mean, it just makes it a little bit more of an attainable thing, has some familiarity there. So that's one of the things I did, and I used it as a way to say, look, you can do the same thing, because a lot of them get discouraged because learning English is an extremely difficult endeavor. It's much more difficult than, say, if you speak English and you want to learn how to speak Spanish or even French, because many of the words and the sounds, and it's all written in the alphabet that we're accustomed to. It's much easier. So this is learning English can be very discouraging. So let them know that it can be done. Use this introduction to introduce any classroom procedures that you may want to implement, if you know about those types of things. But they can really come in handy, since controlling and managing a class can be difficult because of the language barrier, but also with the occasional uninterested co-teacher, you're going to need to be able to navigate how to control the classes if you have an uninterested teacher and a bad class. You know, you're going to have the full spectrum of students, types of classes. You're going to have the angels that come in, they do what you say, they're nice to you, they bring you in treats, they're always polite. And then you're going to have the classes from hell. And then with those classes from hell, you may have a teacher that just sits in the back of the classroom and puts their head down or does work on their computer. And you're going to need to be able to gain control of the class and have some semblance of a productive class. So maybe having some classroom procedures in place is helpful. One of the procedures that I implemented this year was assigned seats. And this comes in really handy, mainly because it splits up the trouble students. But it also helps you to remember the students' names, because you got to put together these seating charts, and on those charts you're going to write their name in Hangul, in English, maybe their student number. That's what I put on there. And it's going to help you to remember their names. And I got to tell you, I'm bad at remembering the names, but it did help me remember more names. But at a minimum, when I was in front of the class and conducting class, at least now when I call on a student, I can look and call on their name, and that makes a big difference to them. Instead of just saying, hey, go ahead, go ahead. If they're called out by name by the foreign teacher, that really helps to build a bridge with some of the students. It can be really helpful. You can also have general conduct rules and penalties and things like that. In my case, I have a 3-strike rule. And basically what that is if there's any unruly behavior 3 times, I actually punish the whole class. Now I know some of you are going to be like, what? That's crazy, that's stupid. And you know what, in some cases it is, but there's a few reasons why I did it. First, the students are very smart. They're just little people, and they're well aware of the fact that you don't hold quite the authority as the Korean teachers do. Now, if you do come into a situation where you have a teacher who's having a bad day, or they're just uninterested, and you have a hell class, well, this type of setup can really work, because, hey, look, we all know that there are people, maybe you, me, have been there before, where hey, it's a badge of honor to disrespect or to challenge authority. So sometimes you're just going to butt heads with students. They're just not going to do what you say, and they'll just laugh at you. But to answer to a student in a social setting that they caused punishment upon can have far greater consequences than anything that a teacher can dish out. So on many occasions, when that 3-strike threshold was being rapidly approached, there would absolutely be students that would just turn around and just bring everything back into control. And I was really surprised that it worked that well. You can do it any way you want, but this is just what I used. It really did work well because it put the onus on the students to behave. They all know what they're supposed to do, and it just put the accountability on them. It worked really well. You can also use it as a way to introduce your own specific activities. I had a weekly activity that I had a few different things, not too in-depth because I didn't want to bore them to death, but a little grammar, a little vocabulary word, you know, like homonyms or something like that. SpongeBob activities, I would call them, is just something that I pulled off the internet, and I use it every week. But also I use extra credit. When I first started, I was looking for a way to reward students, and I had this old stamp sitting in my desk, so whenever somebody would do something right, I would just start stamping their books, stamping their hands, piece of paper, scrap paper, anything, and it really caught on, and teachers, the co-teachers started to take notice of it. Well, now we have in place an actual extra credit stamp sheet. And at the end of the semester, those stamps are tallied up, and they give extra points that they add to the student's final grade. And it could mean the difference, say, between a B+ and an A- in some cases. And so now all the teachers have stamps. So I just reintroduced that during my introduction because I have all their attention, and it just puts everything together in one place. Who I am, what I expect of the students, and what we're looking to do in the classroom. I just think that having a good introduction is a great way to set the tone for a fun and productive and engaging first year or first semester. If you're interested in finding out more about actually structuring your lessons and planning lessons out, maybe you can check out this video.
ESA stands for E is engage, S is study, A is activate. The engage phase is really used to kind of get students interested in your class and to get their gears moving for using English again. Most of them go through